You can't get too comfortable.
Who's it Heidi?
Like, that.
He walks around.
I don't get out much. Yeah.
Although, like, this is the first time.
I don't know what. Well, usually they email. Don't they email stuff from Buchanan County now, or do they send a packet to you?
Yeah, they email.
Yeah. They used to send packets, now it's by email, which is so much nicer. Yeah, why didn't they send it to your house?
It came to central office, so.
Maybe they didn't realize you were on.
I looked you up in the directorship. Yep. I didn't have it memorized, Bob.
The last meeting took 10 minutes. It was on the internet, so.
Oh, it was nice. Do you have to go in person?
Yes, this time we do.
Oh. Yeah, it's 10 minutes, it's just.
What's it for?
Well, they gotta elect new board members too, because somebody went on, then they went down through the whole list, and it has to be somebody that's in real estate.
Yes.
Someone that's good with all the standards.
Yeah. Well, then it might be maybe 20 minutes. Oh, it's 7:01. Oh my goodness, we gotta call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum. We need an approval of the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
Julie made a motion about Cobb second. Any discussion? All in favor, can we do hands?
You can do hands.
All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same, motion passes. You wanna read the voice?
Sure. The Owens School Board tries to provide an environment where students can be happy, healthy, and awesome in their educational pursuits. We believe that each student can graduate ready for college and/or a career. To do so, we will provide a safe, nurturing, and engaging learning environment that meets individual wellness, social, and emotional needs.
Thanks. Item 5 is any district resident who'd like to speak to any item on the agenda.
Done.
All right. 6, presentation, 5-year budget projection.
All right, Michael and I put together a brief slideshow to talk about the kind of the pathway where we're going financially as we enter our budget season. We'll get the workbook from John Parker from the Department of Management probably mid-February, early February. Where we'll sit down and really start to dig into the numbers, and then we'll give you kind of a preliminary shot of where things look in the annual budget in February, and then we typically approve that in March or April. We have to have it to the county auditor by April 15th, so that's kind of our hard deadline. In the fall, Michael and I went to a 5-year projection workshop, and so that's where a lot of these numbers come from, but it's just kind of getting you familiar with where we're at, the direction we're heading. If you have any different goals or you want to see a different direction from us for the district, then this is kind of the time to help steer that ship, because we'll start making decisions in the next less than a month before we meet again in February. All right. That being said, this is a kind of a snapshot of our general fund balance to end each fiscal year. On the left-hand side there, you can see we were near $5 million, and this year we're projecting, or we did end at $2.6 million. Total fund balance. That includes all the activities funds, all the saved funds. So the 15 million one, don't be alarmed. that's the bond proceeds that are sitting in our account to pay off the remodel of the high school and elementary. And then our solvency ratio, what we have in the remaining balance over what we spend annually is on the right-hand side. The state would like us, all the smart folks down in Des Moines would tell you that we should be anywhere from 5 to 15% for solvency. So we were above a healthy solvency in 16, and then we declined, and then we were kind of heading in the wrong direction, and we've bounced back. And I can illustrate that here a little better here. Maybe. There we go. All right, so this is maybe a little bit better of an illustration. So fiscal year 19, we took that $800,000 budget cut here. So you can see we were heading in the wrong direction. We made some initial cuts in 18, and then another swing, pretty significant amount of cuts in 19, which helped us recover. And so now we're on the right path. Michael, you feel free to add into anything you want on this.
Yeah, no, you're hitting the bases there, so.
All right, I'll keep moving Erica around. So the outlook for next year is that we would take another hit. However, that's an estimate, and after I should get to the next slide deck here, we'll show you the re-estimate where we think we're going to be. So we'll have to re-estimate again for FY22 for our budget, which you'll have to approve before you approve the 23 budget. But the main targets and trackers in there that we're tracking, obviously the bond proceeds looks, and when we publish our general budget to the public, all the proceeds for the bond are in there, and so it looks bloated, and that's one thing you just kind of always got to take that off the table.
Yeah, and if I can just jump in for just a second here. So all the words at the bottom there kind of get across this point. Those numbers that you see there for FY22 are based on the numbers that we came up with back in March of 21 when we were formulating the 22 budget. So that, for instance, the general fund balance, we thought that we were going to be coming into FY22 with a balance of 1.4, and in reality, we ended with a balance of 2.6. So that alone, we're in a better spot in starting balance. You can add 1.2 to that 924, and you'll see it on the next slide, like you said, with the re-estimate. But there were some things that came in better than expected. So this would have been, if it would have come in exactly as we thought 21 was going to end, and there wasn't the influx of CARES cash a couple different times and all of that. So and then obviously we had the bond, like Josh said. So and that total fund balance does take into account us spending out the bond by June 30th of this year. So the bond proceeds are zeroed out. That $3,051,000 is what's left after that.
So in the bottom, this is basically the same graph I showed you earlier, except for the bottom you can see what we budgeted in 22, and then what the re-estimate we're projecting for the re-estimate at the end of this fiscal year.
So
Is
any part, or can you tell me what part of that general fund balance at the end of 22 is one-time CARES money?
That would basically be zero, Bob, because that's reimbursed as we spend it. So we spend it, and then we go get the reimbursement at the end of the quarter. So it nets to zero. So when we're talking about a general fund balance, this is what's left in the bank after we pay all the bills in FY22. This is the fund balance. There's no. It's been, you know, you could say it's been lifted because we've put some of the expenses that might have come out of there originally.
That's where I'm going with that. If you took those CARES money, and you subtract that out of operational expenses,
Right.
that would probably drop the general fund down.
Yeah.
How much would that be? Do you have any idea at all?
I mean, I could pull a report and tell you, but yeah, I mean, it's,
significant. I mean,
yeah, there are a significant amount of personnel expenses being charged to that right now. But that's where decisions are gonna have to be made as we get into, you know, personnel decisions in the spring, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have like two hiring, two budget seasons to really account for that. So we have this year and then next year. Because the end of 23 is when it has to be, June 30th of 23 is when all that money has to be spent out. And then you have through September to get reimbursed for it and spend it. So we need to make all of our decisions, any decisions that has like a long-term impact with the ESSER funds needs to be made by spring of 23. So starting now through next spring, we need to really be aware of that so we can make sure we prepare for that kind of fallout. We have taken on, I mean, I would say, I don't know, 50% of our costs are one time, where we're trying to use those funds, capital projects, cleaning supplies that we had to go above and beyond. We've purchased some curriculum and those kind of things that are one time. Where in a traditional cycle, we may have purchased it with general fund dollars, but we pulled the trigger early because of ESSER funds, and then we didn't have to use general balance funds to capture the costs.
And Josh got us approval from the state on a few of our capital projects too, you know, with the playground and the AV equipment and the loudspeaker and the windows, so that's eaten up a little more of the CARES money too, and it's been, like he's saying, one-time expenses, so, yep.
So this is kind of what we're projecting. It's where you can see, if we talked, FY22 was down, not down as far as what it was maybe going to be, and as long as we continue on the path we're on, FY23 and FY24 should continue to be healthier. So that's the trajectory. And it gets really hard, though, you know, you do a 5-year study. Well, basically those graphs are driven by where do you think your enrollment's going and where do you think SSA is going for the state with supplemental state aid. So, you know, enrollment we can kind of track and make an educated guess on. The state SSA is like, I don't know, just throw darts. So, we were pretty conservative, I think, when we put our guesses in, hoping that we could, you know, reasonably, conservatively guess where we're going, and then if we end up better, then we end up better. Oops.
Yeah, you'll see it when he gets to the slide about enrollment. There were pretty conservative assumptions made on what those classes are going to be, backfilling the ones that are graduating out. So
yeah, so this is just a couple things to kind of talk about. You know, there's always a conversation of, do you track solvency ratio or do you track your unspent authority ratio? Both are healthy to look at, but I don't know if either one's really a silver bullet. Our management fund has continued to dwindle year over year, just as we've used it to help with the tax rate. But that's something that we're going to have to maybe watch a little closer now, just with, I don't know, insurance rates and those kind of things, what we want to do with it. And then just looking for any opportunity for revenue to help continue to grow. Olwine Online continues to be a place to grow and hopefully continue to get some either tuitioned in or open enrolled in students as we grow that program. And then, this is a process I do take you through. So this is an exercise that we go through in that training, and that's to take all of our enrollment numbers, and then we walk them out all the way to 2027. And again, you're guessing what you're putting in every year for pre-K and for K. And so we look historically and kind of where our numbers are at now, guessing that we have anywhere between 85 and 95 enrollees at the kindergarten level. And you could put them all in at 90, but it doesn't really work out that way ever. So we went about every other year, and then those numbers get walked through the rest of the way. So something to be very aware of, we'll continue to talk about year over year until it's done, is this bubble right here. So we have our freshman class and our sophomore class. We got 111 and 113. As those walk out and graduate, you can see we have 2 years in a row. We're negative 18 and negative 26 in terms of student enrollment. So in any given year, it's not a huge deal, but you go 2 years back to back with that kind of decrease in enrollment, and that will kind of indicate a budget cutting scenario. So we just want to watch that and make sure we track that progress, and either hedge our bets against it, be able to kind of eat it as it comes along, or continue to find new avenues of revenue to balance those out. But it certainly is something to be aware of and to watch. Questions? Okay.
We will move on to reports. Ms. Harris.
All right. A little bit of a shorter report for this month, which I know nobody will complain about. Wrestling, very exciting. We have girls' state this weekend, so we have 5 female wrestlers who will head down with Coach Hadley and Coach Blake Friday and Saturday for Iowa City. Senior Lauren Hamilton especially is looking forward to it. She placed 8th last time, so she's looking to move her way up the podium this year. We also celebrated our first win on senior night for the wrestling team over BCLUW/South Hardin. The Storm is what they call themselves. And our seniors all wrestled very well, and we thank them for their dedication to our program. Boys basketball, middle school, kicks off their season tomorrow night down in Hudson. And then they have their first home game on Friday. And we're continually seeing great strides, especially on our JV and our 9th grade team. So we've had some injuries on our varsity team, which has put us back a little bit in that respect, but we have great talent, so we're really looking ahead at what's to come for those teams. On the girls basketball side, we're being really competitive in this new conference and with non-conference games as well. We had a heartbreaking loss to Independence earlier this month. If anybody was at that game, it was a great game up until the last 40 seconds to a minute. We were right there, we were leading, and then we actually outscored Grundy Center in our game with them, which they're a ranked school, in the 3rd quarter when we played them, and we gave them a run for their money in the 1st quarter. So we're really looking at some of those wins that we have. It's more than just what the scoreboard is showing, definitely. And we're really just focusing on building that culture where we can be competitive. And it's there. We're really excited for this 8th grade class that's coming up, and we have some strong numbers. Bowling also celebrated their first one on the boys' side, and we have a recruitment event coming up for those guys. They're going to do a pizza party with some of the 8th graders and really try and get some excitement going down with some of those guys. We're hoping to continue to fill out our varsity rosters and build some depth with that program. For cheer, they're just looking forward to senior nights. Bowling is February 4th, and for basketball, senior night is February 1st. On the activity side of things, if you've been to, I'm really sad, we actually got snowed out Friday because it would have been the pep band's 2nd appearance of the season. I mean, they rock it. They do such a fun job, and Corey with the Husky Productions has the lights out. It's like you're at a rock concert there during halftime. It's awesome. So they're rocking and rolling. It's great. Speech held a showcase last night, and it's really cool to see the 3 events that we have going. They have districts this Saturday down at Waterloo West. And we have some great student engagement, and we're hoping to see how they do at districts on Saturday. Then, as always, there's the list of home events from now until the next board meeting, which I think is on Valentine's Day, so we all have a nice hot date planned for that. Any questions?
All right, thank you. Mr. Yes.
Also have the date.
All right. So first things first, we started our winter screening period for fast testing. So a huge shout out to our title teachers and our instructional coaches who kind of take on the bulk of that testing of our students in reading and math. Really excited to see just the growth that our kids have made from the very beginning of the year. So really anxious to kind of get my hands on that data and dive right in. The Great Kindness Challenge. I love that this has become like an annual event for the elementary because it's awesome. So this year will be January 24th through the 28th. And really just emphasizing a week's worth of going out of your way to be kind to each other. I think each classroom is setting a goal of completing between 50 and 100 just random acts of kindness. So, I mean, you really can't beat that. So a big thank you to Barb Winter and our PBIS team for organizing everything with that. And then finally, just a quick update on our ELA pilots. Our first and third grade teachers were recently trained on the next round of the resources that they're going to be using. So I've seen and heard lots of great things about both series that we're considering, from both staff and students too. So we're expected to kind of wrap those up around the end of February, and even though there's still lots more to be done, we're certainly getting much closer in our pursuit of a common ELA resource. Any questions?
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Lexstrom.
Hi there. Short report for me as well. We just are finishing up last week. We had our families picking up all of their materials for this next semester, so all the elementary materials and then along with the guided notes for our secondary. Last week we kind of finished up coursework and allowed kids to get their grades up if they wanted. And what's coming next, us too, we're fast testing for our K-6 students. We brought students into the building last week and teachers have traveled to some of our open enrolled and tuitioned-in families so that we can get them tested as well. We're getting ready for our math testing for our 7th through 12th grade students and just kind of getting ready to kick off second semester tomorrow. So that's all I got.
All right, Ms. Hampton.
I don't want to say the same thing everybody else says, but mine is also very short. We're back from break and off to a great start. The first Friday back, 8th graders experienced the Courage Retreat, and the kids came back really excited, and apparently there were a lot of tears. But we've seen evidence since the Courage Retreat of kids reminding each other, remember what we said then, and so it's been great. We also started our mid-year fast testing for 5th and 6th graders, and we are also doing math testing. We were able to get math done for the most part on Thursday, and already there are lots of things to celebrate in our scores already, so that was it's really awesome. And then basically all of the staff continue to work on different ways to help all of our students.
Any questions? Okay. Mr. Hadley.
Good evening. As you know, tomorrow is the start of our new semester. So we just finished first semester really strong last week. We kind of did something different to end this semester. We actually took last week and made it, we called it SRG makeups. So standards reference grading is still new to our building. They've been doing it K-8 for a while, but we just started last year in the midst of COVID and hybrid, and this is the first year our students have gone every day with SRG. So we challenged students last week. We cut things off the Friday before, and we said this week is just about what we call reassessing. So it's taking your score from wherever you are and moving it up a notch. So if you're at a 3, let's get to a 4. If you're at a 2, let's get to a 3. And really a big push to the bottom end. We started that last week with several failing courses, and we slashed that number by greater than half and really mitigated that course loss credit for students. And more importantly to me, really re-emphasize that learning, right? So when a student doesn't understand it, that's actual learning that's tied to that letter grade, not just the grade, but the learning that's expected to build upon what we're going to do this semester. So we learned a lot through that, and I think it's something we're going to continue at the end of this semester, maybe shorten it from a week to a couple of days in May, but definitely look to try and continue to provide opportunities. Students always have the opportunity to assess, but it's amazing when you make them, how much more they take advantage of it. Without going line by line, one of the other big initiatives I'm really excited for, one of the initiatives you have as a board is college and career ready, so we're really leaning into that career piece. I don't personally believe every student maybe is college bound, or maybe they're college bound, but college is the best option. There are some great career options. One of those is right next door, emergency medical technicians. We've been working with Mercy One in partnership with NICC to develop an EMT program, which will actually start in the fall as a pre-course, and then we'll ramp up and do it as a full course in the spring. Students will get 8 college credits, but more importantly, they'll actually get an EMT certificate that they can take and become employed, hopefully right away, to continue to fill those healthcare voids. And I'm excited about this opportunity. We brought in welding again. We brought that pathway. Now we're bringing EMT. We're looking to continue to expand. We'd love to continue to expand healthcare and other avenues. That's been great work that we're really excited to continue to pursue. Lastly, the big thing we've been focusing on as our building leadership team is focusing on what we call multi-tiered systems of support. So how do we take and assist all students with multiple levels of just coming around them, wrapping around them with services, not just academics, but also social and emotional learning. So we've really kind of gotten into that work and really heavy, and we've had a great partnership with the AEA. We're looking to continue to move that forward. Questions?
Now we're doing a public hearing on ESSER 3 plan.
So the ESSER 3 requirement is that we receive public comment every 6 months on our plan. We have not changed anything about our plan, so it's on here for an opportunity for public comment. Hearing none, I think we can move on.
All right, now we're on to return to learn plans.
The ESSER requirements also require us to publish and receive public comment every 6 months, how we're going to continue to educate during the pandemic, which is our return to learn plan. So same deal. We'll do this every 6 months for the next 2 years. And public can comment anytime they want. We actually have, I think, some links on our website where public comment can be given on either one of these. So there wasn't any submitted actually since August. So okay.
9 is discussion items, board policy 100 series.
Okay. As a kind of a New Year's resolution, our office is looking to digitize. Actually, our board policies are digital, but they're digital by series, or they were digital by series. So if you wanted to read the 100 series, it was one PDF, and it was all the policies in that series. And not a huge deal for 100 because you see it's not very lengthy. But you get to the 400, 500, or 600 series, and they're quite lengthy. They're several pages long just in the table of contents, which creates challenges for your review. It creates challenges for us. It creates challenges for anybody that wants to go find that policy. So just in continual effort to improve and modernize, we have redone our policies and how we categorize and work on them. And so each one is kind of a standalone link now. So you can go in and you click on any one of the policy numbers and it'll take you to just a standalone policy. On the back end of this, so for you guys to know, I don't know if it's interesting to the public or not, each one of these policies is also warehoused in a historical reference. So our hope is that in the next 10 years, if you ever wanted to go back and reference any policy and what the writing was prior to a change, we would have record of that. What's published is what's approved, but we retain the change sequence of any one of the in particular policies moving forward. With that being said, in our review process, we found, so code would require or request that the board review and update every policy that they have at least every 5 years. We have a calendar that we try to track and follow, but over the course of changing several hundred policies over a 5-year time period, things get missed. You may miss a series, you may miss a policy sequence, things don't, there's a legislative update that gets updated within that 5-year time period and then updated again, and so things kind of get out of sequence. We found some inconsistencies in our own policies that we want to clean up as we digitize and modernize our policy sequence. So in discussion of how we were going to do this and make it, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? That we would do this over the course of a full calendar year. So every month we would have a policy series that would be open for discussion with the board. We don't anticipate many changes, but as changes come up, as you read and learn and dig back into these policies, if there are things that you want to discuss or change or learn more about, this is an opportunity to do that. And then if we do want to change anything in the policy, or if we're up for cycle in any one of the areas, or we need to fix any of the areas as they come up for review, the next month, so February, will be the 200 series. But if there's anything tonight that you want to dig into and say, hey, we don't like that word, or we don't like how that reads, or we want to review that, then in February, we'll still discuss the 200 series, but the 100 series will move down to the action items for first reading. And then go through the regular adoption process. Then in March, it goes to the second reading and consent agenda, and so on and so forth. So trying to put a systemic way about, really truly reviewing all of our policies in one calendar year without doing it in a way that is exhausting, not only for you guys, but for us, because it's a lot of work every single month to update them, change them, review them, bring them back to you, and make sure that they're read and ready to go. With that being said, there is opportunity to talk through anything in the 100 series. It really covers like 5 main things. So the 100 series talks about the legal status and the educational philosophy of the district. And then it has equal education opportunity and non-discrimination laws, which are a federal government rule that we have to have, and they pretty much give us the language that we have to include in them, all the way through 504, which is Section 504, which comes out of ADA compliance from the 1970s. And then you have bullying harassment policies, which come out of Iowa Code, which we have to have. We have to use their language. We can add to it, but we can't take away. And then also a state requirement is long-term, long-range needs assessment planning, which we do. It's part of our strategic planning process that we go through every 3 or 4 years. So is there anything that you guys want to dig into or look at?
Has there been any big problems in any of the areas?
Not in this area, no. I would say if there's anything that, the notice of non-discrimination, the bullying harassment piece in terms of what is equitable in terms of access to education, not necessarily education itself, but access to education for students and students to students, that kind of thing, diversity awareness, that kind of stuff. That would be the only thing that could be addressed or can be addressed, maybe more so. But is certainly a political football right now. So, the state passed House File 802 last summer, which prevents us from actually, doing some specific things with staff. And it becomes limiting on our scope to get too in the weeds on diversity and equity. Yep. Now, for our new board members too, I think that maybe if you don't realize, all of these policies are built as primers from the Iowa Association of School Boards and their attorneys. They write them, and then we get them and review them, and we review them against our policies. So what the process we go through internally before we ever come to you with a policy change is we read what we currently have, we read what their recommendations are, and then we try to marry the two. And we do that policy by policy. And then sometimes it's you need to adopt this because code said so. Sometimes it's an either or. You can pick this language or this language. And then you just have a discussion about what's the best path forward for our district. And then we have an adoption process.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay, we're good.
All right, we're on to the consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Bob made the motion and Julie seconded to approve the consent agenda items as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. Item 11 is to approve the required transfer of ESSER funds.
Yeah, so this is something you'll see from me on a quarterly basis anyway. And this is the nutrition fund expenses for Q2. So we have a couple of folks on our kitchen staff that are paid for with ESSER funds. And this is you approving that we move the funds from general fund to the nutrition fund to pay those bills, so.
Recommend approval.
I'll make the motion to transfer the ESSER 2 funds from the general fund to the nutrition fund.
I'll second.
Bob Bowska made the motion and Julie seconded to approve the transfer as presented. Discussion. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. Item B is to approve the transfer of ESSER funds from general fund again.
Yeah, so, yep, same type deal. This is just the PEPAL fund instead, so, basically the state, when we did the car last summer, said that any kind of capital expenditures that we do with the ESSER funds needs to come out of PEPAL. So, the money comes into general fund and then we reimburse PEPAL. If you noticed on the fund balances this month, the PEPAL fund is negative right now. It's negative because, as you can see, there's over $500,000 here we're getting from Q2 ESSER that'll wash out that negative balance. But this is just getting approval to do that once the state sends that money.
Recommend approval here.
I make the motion we approve that transfer of ESSER 3 funds.
I'll second.
Julie made the motion and Joey seconded to approve the transfer as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. C is to approve approve the renewal copier lease with Access Systems.
So this one snuck up on me. This is one of the very first things that I did when I started as superintendent here was we transitioned from a purchased copy system, and then we also paid a service fee to a local vendor to service all of our copy machines. It was quite costly to the general fund. We transitioned all the costs into PEPAL, and then it's a lease, so we don't actually purchase or own any of our copy machines. And then so every couple of years we can get new ones. If they break, they fix them. And then there's a toner agreement, and then we pay for specific amounts of color copies and black and white copies. get to the nuts and the bolts of this. So this chart here shows our copy usage, and you can see that we're down in our black and white copies, but we are trending up in our color copies. Volume wise, it's about the same, but we could do more black and white copies because they're cheaper than we do color, and so that drove some of the decisions we made for renewal to try to help bring those costs down. And you can see this is what we're currently paying a month for our copy system, and then that's an estimated total cost at the end of this fiscal year. And I think then the proposal. So you can see, all right, and this is why I wanted to make sure I pointed out what we're currently at. So we're currently paying $7,211 a month for all of our copiers, toner, in all of our buildings. And the new agreement for the next 5 years is $7,264. So the nice thing is, again, we can budget for 5 years. This captures a better job of where we're at in terms of copy usage, and more or less will, like I said, get us for 5 years. We are reducing some of the color machines in the district and changing them out for black and white machines. So this summer, we'll get a new production black and white machine in the print shop, and then we'll get all new copy machines, 2 new copy machines in every single one of our buildings, and then a couple of printers are getting replaced as well.
And reducing the fax expense.
Oh,
with
yeah.
CenturyLink, so we'll be moving
Correct,
to Eagle
yeah.
fax.
Yep.
So that's a little bit of cost savings there too.
Yep, and then also some efficiency digitizing the fax lines. So we've been trying to reduce the number of fax lines coming into the district, just in terms of a cost and an effectiveness and efficiency thing. But fax is still used, in particular by the medical field. So all the doctors are faxing stuff to us. It's supposedly more secure, but when you have a reduced amount of fax lines, those faxes go to whatever fax lines you have available, and it's not necessarily the right building and the right person's picking up the fax, so it's not necessarily secure. But the e-gold fax digitizes all that, so we can have a fax line for every building, and then when it's faxed, it actually just goes to like a server, and the secretaries can go pull all those faxes out of that server without actually having to print any paper. So there's an efficiency, I think, there that we'll find, and not that we do a ton of work with faxes, but certainly it'll be more convenient for our families and for the medical field that is faxing us stuff. I completely forgot all about that. It wasn't even like
Just
bonus.
there's a little bit of cost savings there with eliminating that and rolling it into this monthly package.
So the nice thing, I suppose, financially, it's that this is a fee we're used to paying. It's paid for out of Pebble funds, and the rationale doing it 5 years ago is that you don't have to wait 10, 12, 13 years to get a new copy machine before it really dies out. We get whatever, I don't even know what it is, 7 or 8 brand new copiers. The production copier we have in the print shop is over $100,000 if we were to go buy one brand new. So it's beneficial, and I recommend approval.
Make the motion to renew the copier lease.
That's to make a motion, second to approve the lease as presented in the discussion. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. D is to approve the request for SBRC funding.
Yep. This has to do with statewide voluntary preschool. There's, the number is there, $21,681 available to O-line. We just have to go ask for it from the SBRC. So, and we have to have it in our minutes that the board approved us asking for it, and then there's a cover letter. And that's about as easy as it gets to go ask for funding. So, bringing it to you guys for approval.
I move we approve the request to the SBRC for funding related to the fiscal year 2022 SWB.
I second. I second what he said.
Bob Call made the motion, Julie seconded to approve what Bob Call said.
Before Bob finished.
Yeah. All in, or no, any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. Michael?
All right, to follow the theme of short reports, I have two items here. We're just moving from calendar year end to negotiations and budget prep for 23. So that's kind of what we were touching on there with the 5-year talk. And then we're meeting, like Josh said, the regional SBOs are meeting in Elkader. John Parker's gonna present the budget workbook to us on February 9th. So, they're shifting to an online model, which has me a little nervous as an Excel guy, but, it's all gonna be like a web-based thing this year, and it's supposed to create some efficiencies of just having it all right there. We'll see. So, but we're gonna learn all about it on February 9th, so. That's it for me.
Thank you. Mr. Rain?
I don't have anything to report.
All right, we're on to discussion. Bob Bauska.
Any updates on wings?
Wings is still progressing nicely. They are working on the finishes. So this week, I think on Thursday, I'll get in there and review carpet samples or carpet mock-up to prove that. They've got painting is probably 75% done. So in the next, I would say, 6 weeks, it's going to be pretty significant changes coming in there. And then I do know, I spoke to Mark Pfister on the phone this afternoon. He's requested presenting to you guys in April, kind of with that looking to be 95% done piece and kind of the sprint towards the finish line.
Good. John? Julie?
Just one question, how long before we're gonna get that management fund back to?
Manageable.
I know we're gonna get there.
Yeah, well, the other big swing of property tax comes in like March, from the county, so that should buoy it to the finish line, so, yep. There's a few expenses that come out of there every month, but the big expenses in like July, August, when we pay our insurance premium for the year, obviously, that's the big one. And when we buy a new vehicle or a new bus or something like that and add to that premium over the year, we have a, windstorm and pay some deductibles or those sorts of things, they all kind of chip away at it too, but yeah, that's where we're at.
I was hoping there's another motion to move ESSER fund.
Yeah, no, I hope not. No, I hope not. No, we're gonna look at those levers when we start looking at the 23 budget too and see what we need to do in terms of that. I'd like to, we all would like to avoid having negative for 9 out of 12 months, but it's also that balance of keeping it a low overall balance, because the state started to get the jeweler's loop out on that too, and they were wondering why districts had big management fund balances. So we got to kind of thread the needle there, so.
Yeah, fiscally, it does, it's a goofy deal where you're paying your premium in July and August for revenue that you're not gonna necessarily see until March, right? I mean, it just,
Yep.
so yeah, I mean, the only fiscal way to solve that is to have, 75% solvency in your management fund, which we're not a bank, and the only way for us to do that is directly tax the taxpayers. So, and that's not cool. I mean, so just balance, trying to figure all that out.
Erica, do you have anything?
No, no comment.
All right. Upcoming meeting, February 1st.
That's a Tuesday. I am signed up to go. So if anybody wants to ride along, it's 9 o'clock. They say 9 to 4. What they do is they bring you in, they talk through some advocacy stuff. The governor's supposed to speak at it. Chad Ingalls is registered to speak at it, and a few other, Emily Piper, the lobbyist for IASB, is scheduled to speak at it. And then they kind of turn you, I think they maybe feed you a light lunch and they turn you loose to the Capitol to go advocate. And then you can kind of go home whenever you're wrapped up. So if anybody wants to ride along, like I said, I plan on going. I've never done the IASB one. I've done SAI, I've done AEA, I've done other ones where you go down as a group to advocate. But this is my first time with IASB, so I'll be leaving that morning and coming back that night. So let me know.
All right, just need a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Julie made the motion, Joni seconded it. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same, motion passes. 7:51. Really,
Good job.